you, Antonella, and congratulations to Ceres for the wonderful 10th anniversary and for all of your work and the movement which you've created. We've spent a lot of this morning talking about what is the responsibility of business in society. And part of that is about how to support youth in the communities where businesses work, to be able to support them with opportunities. Another part of it is also how to support its existing employees to continue to reskill. And for those who are exiting, how to do that in a socially responsible manner such that they are trained and placed in other jobs in the community. And so there's such a lot of talk these days about what are we going to do with the reskilling challenge. And we've heard some of that in the discussions this morning as well. If you look at the workforce space, what is currently on offer is a lot of single pieces. So assessments, trainings, certifications. But the reality is that unless all of these pieces in the puzzle come together and are delivered in an integrated way, it's very difficult to be able to support young people and learners of all ages to be successful. And that's particularly the case for those who are the most vulnerable and need the most help. That's why we created Generation. Generation is a nonprofit founded by McKinsey as part of its social responsibility. And what Generation does is recruit, train, and place disconnected learners in careers. We began with a focus on youth, and now have also expanded to mid-career workers who have lost their jobs to automation. Generation has 7 parts in its solution, and I'll just talk about 4 here. First, we pre-confirm job vacancies with employers. Second, we deliver 4 to 12-week boot camps that are profession-specific and that integrate the technical, behavioral, and mindset skills that you need to be successful in that profession. And just to give you a sense, we today work in 26 professions, everything from robotics process automation to machine operator, from cloud support practitioner to hotel front desk. And so it's a very wide variety. The third thing we do is place our graduates in jobs. And then we measure the return on investment, both for our employer partners and for our learners. So for our employer partners, we're looking at what's their productivity, quality outcomes, retention, speed to promotion of our graduates relative to their non-generation peers. And for our learners, we're looking at their personal and financial well-being. And then fourth, once our graduates are on the job, we continue to provide social supports so that they have what they need to be successful. Along the way, we've created a unique data set now of more than 7 million data points. And actually about 1 million of those data points are here in Spain. And what we're capturing is pre-program, so everything from their socioeconomics, their experiences, demographics, their performance in the boot camp, so their engagement, their activity mastery, and then lastly, on the job, so their job performance, their income, and their well-being. So Generation was launched 5 years ago, and we are now live in 13 countries. We're in 100 cities, 26 professions. We've served 32,000 learners, and we have over 3,000 employer partners. And I'm happy to say that Spain was one of our very first countries when we launched 5 years ago. If you look at our learners, it's very diverse. So this is one of our cohorts in the UK. But essentially, the vast majority who are coming to us, over 93% who are coming to us are unemployed, and the rest are underemployed. Essentially, over 50% are female, 40% have dependents, 90% do not have a college degree. And so we're really trying to focus on those who need the most help in every geography where we are active. Globally now, after program completion, over 80% of our graduates are employed immediately. 70% continue to be employed 1 year later. And in terms of income uplift, we see a 2 to 6x income uplift of our graduates relative to what they were earning prior to generation. And cumulatively, they've now earned over $135 million in salary across all of our programs. And most importantly, we also find that for our employer partners, we are now able to show an ROI. So for 84% of our employer partners, they're seeing productivity outcomes, quality outcomes, retention outcomes that are on par or greater than their current employees. Now let's talk about Spain. So as I mentioned, we launched in Spain about 5 years ago. So 70% of our graduates are employed within 90 days. And that number actually has increased now to about 80% plus for our more recent cohorts. In Spain, we focused a lot on digital professions for all the reasons that have been discussed this morning. And so that includes everything from robotics process automation to Java to cloud to digital marketing. And what we've been able to deliver through that is an income uplift of 4 to 5 times what our graduates were earning prior. So typically, they were earning about 250 euros per month, primarily through government benefits prior to joining Generation. And so with the salaries that they are now able to achieve, they've now earned over 11.5 million euros in salary. And 60% of our graduates are using that income to support their families. We're also, there are 2 data points which I'll also share about Spain, which I think are quite special. So one is, because of our strong focus on digital marketing, 7% of all digital marketing vacancies in Spain today are actually filled by Generation graduates. And our goal is to get to 10 to 15% over the coming period. And when you look at permanent contracts, 50% of our graduates have permanent contracts within the first 6 months of being on the job, relative to about 2% for young adult workers. So these are some of the things that we look at in order to see, are we actually moving the needle? Are we actually changing the trajectory of how employers are recruiting and training and employing our learners? I'd like to just focus on 2 things that we've learned along the way that I think are relevant well beyond Generation. The first is around what we call breaking bias barriers. And in particular, we've seen this the most in tech professions. And the reason is that in tech professions, for some of these, it's like gold dust. You know, trying to find someone who has the appropriate skills and expertise can be very challenging. And so you find that employers are willing to, more than ever before, to try something new, to try something different. And I'll use the example of Spain as I talk about this. So when it comes to the tech professions that we offer in Spain, our learners typically look very different than what employers typically hire. So first of all, 60% do not have a STEM background. So they studied tourism or marketing or accounting. You know, so they've studied things very different from the professions that they're going into. Second, over 50% are female. And actually, within the tech space, only about 15% of the workforce is female. And then lastly, the tech workforce is typically university degree holder. And in our case, about 25% come from a vocational background. Why is this happening? It's happening because when you are desperate for talent, when there is enormous scarcity, as an employer, you're willing to try something new so long as that individual can demonstrate mastery of what that activity is. And we found this to be true in Spain. We found it to be true in all of our countries. We have inside Generation what we call a desperation index. And this desperation index is our barometer for how badly does an employer want to find a solution to a particular talent problem. And this is what we really look for as we try to introduce alternative profiles so that we can create a more inclusive business environment. I'll also speak just briefly about mid-career transitions. Again, throughout the morning, we've been talking about how the shifts in technology, the shifts in automation are changing the nature of jobs so that increasingly they have elements of digitization within them, or there are new job activities that didn't exist before. So we have in Generation a new program that we've called Regeneration. And it focuses on workers who are in their 40s, 30s, 40s, 50s, and who are finding themselves in one of two situations. Either they have lost their jobs due to automation or digitization, or they need to significantly reskill in order to be able to have a new job at their employer. And so we've been experimenting with regeneration in Spain, Singapore, and the US over the past year with very different professions. So in Spain, it's been with robotics process automation. In Singapore, it's been digital marketing as well as junior engineer techs. And in the US, it's been with medical administrative assistant and IT help desk. And in every single one of these opportunities, what we've found is the training is not the challenge. You know, there were all types of anxieties about would we be able to teach someone who had been in another job for the last 10 years? Would we be able to teach them something new? And I can tell you, yes, we can. Like, that is not the challenge. The challenge, though, is twofold. One is we have found that there are times when our learners, because of the salary that they were making, the environment in which they were working in, it can be very difficult to transition to a situation where you're actually in entry level for a new career, right? That can be very challenging, and it can be very anxiety producing. The second challenge we found is ageism. In some of our countries, we found that employers are less willing to hire someone who is older because of preconditions and also biases about what does that mean in terms of what they can do. And so we've had to break those down by saying, you know what? Forget the usual interview. You're actually going to interview in a very different way, which is purely practicum. So is this person capable of actually doing the job? And we structure interviews such that they're activity-based in order to be able to overcome that. Now, on the plus side, though, employers have found that those who are coming through regeneration are more loyal. So they actually have longer retention at employers and are less likely to job hop. And that's been something that has, particularly for the digital professions, has been highly valued. In Spain, we've been able to work with Atento on a program to take their call center operators, and the previous speaker mentioned call center operators just a moment ago. So we've taken 45 call center operators, and over 7 weeks, we have trained them to be techs in robotics process automation. And they've all successfully completed the program. They've entered into their RPA roles, and we're now beginning to monitor the ROI. And so this is what we increasingly are seeing, and the demand for these programs is massive. There is a lot of talk about how to support learners in this sphere. There are not so many programs on the ground that are actually doing it. So we're really eager to be able to capture that data and then share that with the space. So with that, I'd like to just share a brief 1-minute video of one of our graduates. Her name is Isabel. She studied tourism. She had been unemployed for upwards of 2 years when she came to us. She went into our 7-week RPA program. And you'll see her and you'll see her employer, Prosegur. And I believe there are some from Prosegur in the audience today. And what that experience has been like. So can we cue that up?
Cuando salí de la carrera, la crisis estaba a tope y los trabajos que había eran muy reducidos. Vas, currículum en mano, pues yo en ese sector tengo paro, vale, pero es que los demás también lo tienen. Los años iban pasando, pero la situación no avanzaba.
Mi misión era construir un departamento de cero. Tenía que generar de la nada a técnicos cualificados en RPA. Entonces, bueno, ¿qué tengo que hacer para atraer el talento en un tiempo récord y tener a las mejores personas posibles dentro del área? Entonces me plantearon esta iniciativa de Generation.
Me llegó un mensaje al móvil de que había un curso de RPA. Yo no sabía lo que era el RPA, pero yo me apunté.
Ha habido muchas cosas en las que Generation nos han ayudado. Buscar los mejores candidatos posibles, a montar toda la infraestructura de la formación. Consistía pues, muchas veces en trabajo de equipo. Y esto es lo que verdaderamente me permitió pasar de 0 a 200 km por hora en nada.
Me acuerdo cuando me llamaron y me dieron la noticia que cambió mi vida. Grité.
Casi todo el departamento fue obtenido a través del programa Generation.
Si yo hubiese podido soñar con algo, esto lo hubiera superado.
En 2 meses hemos montado el que yo digo que es el mejor equipo de trabajo RPA del mundo.
I just want to acknowledge Prosegur for being willing to take risk. And if I can make one plea, more and more companies, and this is a tremendous audience for it, the need and the ability to be able to try something new, to take someone with an alternative profile who, on the basis of your CV, you would not think twice. This is exactly what the world needs right now. And so if I can make a shout out, please do more and more of that in order for us to be able to successfully have a community that creates opportunities for everyone. Thank you.